but it started quick. I remember just after a couple days, some of the mortar guys were outside setting a base plate for, I think it was the 60 mortar. And I think they got 2 flares off before automatic fire erupted. And there was a lot of us outside. And that was when we quickly learned, don't be in that open.
Yeah.
You're always being watched. There is always a weapon pointed at you. And at any time, it can start shooting. So movement during the day became limited. If you're moving from one position to the other, move. Get there. You don't got to run, but don't be hanging out in the open talking to people.
Right.
All of our work was done at night.
Yep.
All of our battle position upgrades or refilling sandbags and, latrine duty and stuff like that. That was all at night, because typically our fights were during the day because we own the night.
Welcome, everyone, to another Saga episode here on Heart of Volunteer Veterans Podcast. Set back, grab your whoopee, and follow the saga of Army veteran, teacher, and coach Mike Armstrong as he shares his dynamic story of service. Again, welcome and enjoy the episode. All right, everybody. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode. Hey, before we get started, I want to thank everybody. This last week, especially coming off of Saga Episode 3 with Dr. Katie Kopp, a lot of shares, a lot of likes, and we actually picked up a few more subscribers to the channel. So thank you very much for the care that you're taking in these episodes. It's not easy to come on a Saga episode and talk about yourself and your military experience, some of the struggles. So thank you for what you do. Hey, folks, I got to tell you, I am extremely stoked for this episode to have this conversation with Mike, our veteran co-host for today. I got to tell you, I've got a sweet gig going on here, and it's not about the money. We don't make thousands of dollars a month. We don't have tens of thousands of downloads a month. The way the podcast is set up is we run on effort. It takes my effort to get an episode going. No one pays me. It takes the veterans' effort. Nobody pays them. For them to take the time, the effort that it takes to go into the emotional space that maybe they've worked themselves through already, for them to come and revisit it in hopes of helping another veteran. So that's how we work here on the show. And you know what? We're lucky if we get 200, 250 downloads a week. We kind of have transient listeners, right? So if you come on the show, your family and your extended friends are going to be listening to it, and we pick up a couple of subscribers that way. So thank you for what you do. And but the best part about this show is the amazing conversations I get a chance to have with the veterans. I've been meeting an amazing amount of new veterans that I never met before. I never served with in other branches of service. And we're working on podcast episodes, and those conversations are amazing. Zero pressure. It's just two veterans talking about something they think is important to them, and it really, really works. At the same time, I get a chance to engage with veterans that I have served with. And like our veteran co-host today, we were in the same unit. We were in 4th Brigade, 4th ID at Fort Carson. My last deployment, we went through a pretty dynamic event, which we'll probably talk about on this episode. But I'm really, really excited, folks, for this episode. So let's get after it. Let's lean forward in the old ruck straps and listen to the Saga episode with Mike Armstrong. Mike, welcome to the show, my friend.
Honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
How's your day going, man? How's it going up there in Nebraska? Is it cold or is it hot?
It's hot and humid. It's hot and humid. It's not like Colorado where it's that dry heat. We get that full humidity here. But it's going great. It's going great. Just got my new routine going on. Been waking up early and head over to this place called 88 Tactical Group. and get my workout in the morning, get my day started.
You know what, Mike, let's talk about that 88 Tactical, man. And I'm not trying to plug for them by any means, but this is an amazing concept of, I don't even know what is it even called, man? What is the whole concept of 88 Tactical even called?
88 Tactical Group is a facility here in Omaha, Nebraska, and they are more like it's a mixture of a gun club and a training facility and a location where people like us and the public, from just regular civilians to veterans, law enforcement, and first responders, go and have a ton of access to training classes such as shooting and pistol and rifle marksmanship. They have a gym there. They got a restaurant upstairs, but it is open to the public. Their main level is open to the public for classes and ranges, and they got a cafe as well. So it's more like a training facility than just a gun range.
Now you're talking indoor ranges and things like that. What are we shooting there?
I take my AK and my AR up there, but pistols and stuff like that. They have some automatic stuff you can play with, but they also have a pro shop where you can purchase your firearms or your suppressors or your gear and stuff like that. They sell the pieces and parts if you want to assemble your own. They'll help you with that as well. So
that's very cool.
It's kind of got the full realm going on, and the gym just opened up a few weeks back. So, but the gym is for the top 2 tiers of the membership. They have like 4 levels. The bottom one is your general public. Mm-hmm. You pay for the lane, you pay for your targets, and pay to play per visit. The next one up is like a social level, still bottom floor, but you get some discounts, get a little bit of a break on the range time and stuff like that. And then if you move up into the Founders Club, which has 2 tiers, social and select, there's more benefits. For example, I'm on the top one, which is a Founders Select. So my lane time is comped. I don't pay for my range time. Mm-hmm. They supply me with all the targets I want. I can take 5 guests with me upstairs to the Founders level, and they'll supply them with ear protection, eye protection, and targets. As well as you can rent the stuff there as well. So if you're trying to find that perfect firearm for you, there's plenty to choose from. And then they have instructors there to help you with your basics, from basic pistol classes to your concealed handgun class to fully advanced. And they even have another range here in Tekamah, Nebraska, which is about an hour north, and that's outdoor. So much further range, and as well as classes and courses for around vehicles, from vehicles, into vehicles, and stuff like that. So it's extremely beneficial for a lot of people, especially with things nowadays. Mm-hmm. With the gun purchases going up, they offer a ton of classes and courses to help people with that.
I noticed on their website, man, that they had like jiu-jitsu and like self-defense, and I did see that range you were talking about. It was like a kill house was like built around a vehicle, and they were doing, you could tell they had done some shooting around that, some target interdiction. That's that's some fancy stuff, man. So you're literally, from talking to you, you said you go to the gym, then you go and you shoot, and then you go get some chow, and then you head home.
Yeah. Essentially, it's kind of, I could be up there all the time. I mean, but yeah, about 4 or 5 days a week, I go up and do my gym time, mm-hmm. and come home and get cleaned up. And then a couple times a month, 2-3 times a month, I'll go ahead and reserve a lane for 30 minutes or an hour, mm-hmm. and go back up and hit the elevator button with my badge so I can get upstairs to the Founders lanes and go and get some AK therapy going or some AR therapy going, and just throw some rounds down range. And then afterwards, go across the hall to the Founders restaurant, where the food is phenomenal and the staff is amazing, and, have a whiskey and kind of just relax and decompress.
Now, these guys have a bunch of new places that are going. It looks like 14 different cities, 4 here in Texas: Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Nashville, Oklahoma City. That's pretty close too. That's like 2.5 hours away. Columbus, Las Vegas, Minneapolis, Kansas City, Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, Denver, and Scottsdale. That's gonna be fun.
Oh yeah, Shay is the founder and CEO, and Shay has connected with some awesome people that I think have really allowed him to push to expand this awesome experience. It's kind of a one-of-a-kind place, and they're even expanding the one here in Omaha. Building onto it, adding some lanes, underground lanes, bigger restaurant, more seats, just allowing more people to come and enjoy and get something out of this place. But yeah, their expansion is getting ready to begin. I believe they're going to be breaking ground in Kansas City next. I think they already had the location picked, but I think construction is pending or getting ready to start. But yeah, they're blowing up.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I got if you listen to past episodes, Will O'Brien, right? He was my company commander. He lives in the Kansas City area. He loves whiskey. He loves whiskey, and he loves. I mean, I've seen the bar there and the one in Omaha, and I can only imagine what they're going to do with the one in Kansas City. I'm pretty sure he'll get a membership. I'll have to call him and talk to him.
Yeah, have him check it out.
Hey, is there?
Yeah, they push.
Hey man, is there any way? Because this really does sound like a amazing concept. Is there any way you can try to get a hold of somebody there and see if we can't have a chat with them?
Absolutely,
Talk about
I'll
this.
reach out and extend the invite, and I'm sure we can try and make something like that happen. Absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about go more in depth with them about it and try to. I mean, if there's veterans in the area, like well, just like you and me, man, talking. It's like there's nothing better than a conversation with a like-minded individual. So if there's more veterans around there, better time. It's always better with more veterans.
Absolutely, and it's comfortable there. They treat us like family, and just about every staff member I've come across there has said exactly that. I thank them for doing what they do and providing what they provide, because for a lot of us veterans, once we step out of that uniform, things can get uncomfortable, and because the structure's gone and the rank and file's gone and that camaraderie's gone.
Yeah.
But this place has pretty much afforded me the comfortability to go out and have a good time.
Man, this sounds like it's a healing kind of a healing point too. We got to do an episode on this.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about that after this, and we'll figure out something. I'll give you some tricks to how to bend this. What's this guy? Shay, is that his name?
Shay. Shay's the founder and CEO, and then Trevor's the president and COO.
Just have to bend their arms a little bit, man. I'll give you some tips.
I'm open to it.
Well, hey, man. This episode, man. This is your Saga episode. So let's jump into it, man. Tell all the listeners kind of where you came from and kind of where it all started, and we'll build up from there. What do you think?
Sounds good.
All right, brother.
Yeah, I was born and raised Omaha, Nebraska. My dad was born and raised here, and kind of just grew up a normal kid. The 80s, early 90s was those times when you had to go outside and go track your friends down and go knock on the door to see if they're home. There was no cell phones and stuff like that. But yeah, nothing too crazy. Went through school pretty quick. No issues there. My dad was a firefighter, so that was pretty exciting growing up. He was the chief of the Little Vista Fire Department right outside of Omaha for a number of years. So I had that childhood experience and, the parades and stuff with the fire trucks. I got to be that kid that was always on the fire trucks in the parade, part of it. So, yeah, really cool childhood, and very grateful to, have grown up in the Omaha area. I love it here.
Hey, did you play sports, man, growing up?
Yeah, I did football growing up as a kid, a lot of recreational football, and then did it for my junior high, and then unfortunately broke my collarbone during that season. So I ended up moving over to the track and field thing a couple years of high school, did long jump and triple jump, but nothing too crazy, just enough to stay active and stay involved, because those groups of friends that you do that with, it's awesome. You become real tight with the people you play the sports with. So I enjoyed it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we may have to get like a little. Are you still in shape, man? Can you still do the long jump? I long jumped in high school, man.
I haven't done anything like that for a while. I got a torn medial meniscus on my right knee. So, but now that I've been going back to the gym at 88, it's one of the perks of being a founder's member is 24/7 access to that gym.
Yeah.
So I am getting back into that position where I feel like there's really no limits. So Yeah, I'm getting back there, but I haven't done anything like that in a real long time.
And when I come up there, man, we're going to go to find like a sand volleyball court. We're going to jump.
Sounds good.
That's it. Then we'll go to 88 Tactical and have us a whiskey.
Oh, that sounds great. We'll need it afterwards, I'm sure.
Hey, man. So, hey, your dad being a firefighter, man, did that have a lot of play on you as far as just like your level of just commitment and service? Would you say?
I'm sure that absolutely had a role to play in it. I don't come from a big military family. My dad's father, so my grandpa on my dad's side, he served, but unfortunately he was killed and my dad was very young in an air accident. He was flying from Colorado Springs to Omaha, and that plane didn't make it. It crashed just outside of Offutt Air Force Base.
Oh, man.
So I never got to meet him, and my dad didn't serve. He went through the firefighter route, and but my cousin did, and he was my mentor, and he enlisted in the Marines in the late '80s, and that had a huge impact. I remember being called out of class in elementary school because he was getting ready to go to Desert Shield, and to see the excitement on his face and what the Marines did for him, and the fact that he was not the biggest guy, but he was an M60 gunner. He humped that machine gun around, and I knew that when he went over there and they turned it to Desert Storm, that he was going to be in the thick of it. And to see him come back, and he was still humble.
Yeah,
I'm sure he had his things that he had to battle with, just like we all do, but he never let on that there was anything going on. So he had me paintballing when I was 12 or 13 with him, and then we moved over to airsoft, and he gave me all of his books. So my goal was to follow in his footsteps and not just join the Marines, but join the Marines as a machine gunner in the infantry. And that's all I wanted at that point as a kid, was to get in a uniform and get a flag on my shoulder and serve.
Hey, where's your cousin now, man?
He's down in Texas. He was in the elevator union, and now he's down there in Houston area.
Okay.
With his family and his kids, and just doing his thing.
Hey, man, make sure you reach out to him. Make sure he hears this episode, and tell him to reach out to me. I'd love to have him on the podcast, man.
Oh, I'm sure he'd love it.
I would love to interview the motivator of a motivator. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's just keep following the rabbit hole, man. That's
a great idea. I love it.
That's powerful stuff. All right, man. So, you jumped off in the Marine Corps, and, what went on from there, man?
So the desire, again, was to get into that branch. And so I pushed hard in high school. I took extra classes and graduated a semester early. So I was done in December of 2000 and was in the delayed entry program by that time, and left at the beginning of February 2001. But the only reason I got there was because I did not reveal my childhood asthma. Initially I had, and the news wasn't good. So the next step was to try again without revealing it. And it got me there. I shipped to MCRD San Diego in February of 2001. But unfortunately, I got extremely sick, very sick there. And they sent me to Balboa Naval Hospital and ran some tests and did some background stuff. And of course, medical history, you can't just, hide. So they did find out that I had childhood asthma. And unfortunately for me, that led to an entry-level separation because I had lied.
Right.
So in middle or late March 2001, I was sent home with an entry-level separation. And a few months later, 9/11 happened. So that was a major heartbreaker right there.
How did you feel about that, man, knowing that you were just missing it?
It was the worst feeling, because all I had wanted to do at that point was serve, just to be a patriot, to carry that weapon, to take the fight to the enemy. And I knew a lot of people who had went. All the guys I had met at boot camp had completed their school of infantry and were in their units and in the fleet, and they some of the first guys in Afghanistan. And so I felt that I should have been one of those. So it was extremely depressing, extremely depressing.
What did you do, man, for to kind of get over that, or not get over it, but get through it?
I can't say there was any one thing. It was just waking up each day and moving forward. I was angry for a very long time because of that. it made me kind of a bitter person, because I had felt like I was given an unfair hand, that I was good enough and ready enough and willing enough to lace up some boots and go do it. But I just couldn't get there again. And it was hard, but eventually I did get through it. And I had met my wife at the time, became my girlfriend in 2002.
Nice.
And I joined, I was working at a liquor distributor, Nebraska Wine and Spirits, just filling orders for wholesale. But then I joined the union. I was in the laborers union for a while. And during that time, I couldn't give up. I kept researching, kept looking. And come 2005, I tried the Marines again. And this recruiter, he's like, I can get you in, but you can't talk to any other branches. Because I was kind of talking to everybody, like, who can take me?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever can take me gets me, and they'll be the lucky ones. But he's like, give me all your attention and I'll get you in. Well, I'm sure he was definitely thinking he could.
Yeah.
But unfortunately for me, during those few years after I was sent home the first time, and between that and the 2005 attempt, I had gotten my left arm tattooed, full sleeve, from the wrist up to the shoulder. And they had a policy about tattoos at that time, because the Marines could roll up their sleeves, could roll up their camouflage sleeves, and only so much tattoo could be exposed. So it started off with it being possibly obscene in nature, which it wasn't. So they moved over to excessive, and I was permanently disqualified. On my birthday in 2005, I was at the MEPS, and they said, you are permanently disqualified from the Marines, even though I had already had a ship date. It was like another, here's the carrot, but you can't have it. It's right in front of you, but you'll never get it. So another letdown again by the Marines. Still love them. They're great.
Yeah.
But it hurt bad. So I pushed for the Army. My wife's family is very military. Her father was Lieutenant Colonel, a Black Hawk pilot. He was the second Native American to ever graduate West Point.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he works at Los Alamos National Laboratories in New Mexico as I think he was a weapons test lead at one point. I'm not sure what he's doing right now, but yeah, he's down there still working for the government and
I'd love for you to hook us up, man. Connect us.
We can do it.
Connect us. I'd love to have your father-in-law on the podcast, man. A Black Hawk pilot.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's right up my alley. Yeah.
And her aunt, on her mom's sister, she's a full bird right now. I think she's overseas somewhere doing something. Nice. She was intelligence for a long time. And then she sat on the board of appeals for characterization of discharge. Mm-hmm. And I'm not exactly sure what she's doing now, but she's still in uniform, and she's great. Colonel Bloss is awesome.
We'll talk to her when she retires.
Yeah, she's great. And her
of
experiences are definitely extensive as well. So she'd be a good one too. So,
well, hey Mike,
my wife's family.
Hey Mike, if you get your father-in-law and you said your wife's sister. Aunt, if you get them on, man, you can come on with me and interview.
Great.
Just like another co-host, and you can ask questions and we can talk and everything else. It'd be great. Good time.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah. So I tried the Army route after the Marines said no to tattoos, and even tried asking my wife's family, like, help me, reach out. And they did. They reached out to people to try to say, get him in. Yeah. And it didn't work out. I traveled down to Kansas City to the battalion headquarters for the recruiting area and, pled my case. And it still didn't work. The active Army didn't want me, either because I lied about the asthma with the Marines, or they still thought I had asthma.
Right.
So I could never get a solid answer, but it wasn't working again. And it was, again, right in front of you and then taken back, right in front and taken back. So finally, I would say it was beginning of 2006, my last resort was the National Guard. But you know what? It was still getting in a uniform and doing something for the country and the state. So I asked the Nebraska National Guard if they could help me. And prior to this, I had went to my asthma doctor and said, you got to prove that I don't have this asthma. Yeah. So I'd gone through a methacholine challenge, which is methacholine will help induce an asthma attack if you have asthma or if you've ever had asthma. Mm-hmm. So they start off with like a 0% methacholine and 100% saline and vaporize it and you breathe it. And they test your lungs. And then they up it 10% until you eventually get to 100% methacholine. And it had no effect on me whatsoever. Nice. No asthma attack, no issues. So I finally had a letter that could more or less prove asthma wasn't an issue. Showed that to the Nebraska Guard, and they jumped on it. They said, you're good to go. Pick a date, and so I enlisted in the Nebraska National Guard in 2006 and went to Sand Hill in October of that year and graduated Distinguished Honor Graduate in February of 2007. Went straight to airborne school on a broken foot that I didn't realize was broken until I got to airborne school, because everything's running in boots and jumping. And
yeah.
So unfortunately for me, another setback was instead of jump wings, I got crutches.
Right.
But the unit I was going to in Nebraska was at the time the 134th Infantry Detachment, which was a long-range surveillance unit and an airborne unit. And so it was almost a guarantee that they would be able to get me an airborne slot. And but after a couple drills, it wasn't enough. 1 weekend a month was not enough for me. It was just like a teaser. So I had started inquiring about active duty and how to get to that. So I ended up getting a hold of the colonel that was in charge of my unit, and I wrote a letter requesting a conditional release from my 6x2 contract, 6-year contract with the Guard, to pursue an active duty career. And I didn't receive a bonus going National Guard, so that was a good thing for me that I didn't have, because I would have had to pay it back.
Oh, yeah.
So with no bonus, and my request, it was conditionally approved that if I went to New Mexico for Operation Jumpstart to protect the border with my unit, after I returned, they would process my release. And it worked out just like that. So throughout July of 2007, I was down in Las Cruces, New Mexico, doing 12-hour shifts right on the border, watching over the area. And after we came back, I got with an active duty recruiter, and they started the packet for me. And since I had an MOS, I was an 11 Bravo.
Yeah.
They didn't have to worry about the asthma or anything, or sending me to training and it not working out. So I was essentially a quick ship. So straight to a duty station. And I requested Fort Bragg, and I did request a bonus.
Hell yeah. How was your time at Bragg, man?
It was very short. I got there in late October of 2007 and was essentially, from the second I got there, I started asking, like, who's leaving and when. I want to go. I mean, we're surging in Iraq right now. President Bush had announced the surge the year before. So my goal was to do the job. I didn't want to practice Monday through Saturday and not play the game on Sunday. So I went to the replacement unit, started asking, and I just kept getting the weird eye that's just like, be careful what you ask for, man. You better be careful what you wish for. This is Fort Bragg. Well, we'll send you over.
Yeah.
And that's how it worked. I was originally assigned to a unit that had just gotten back.
Right.
But on the day we went to report, my name was pulled, or my packet, and they're like, no, you're going to this other unit, and they're already over there.
Nice.
But they need replacements because a few people have, not made it back.
What unit did you go to?
It was called the 600th Quartermaster. It was actually a parachute rigger unit that was underneath the 18th Airborne Corps flag. So they essentially were doing convoy security. They were stationed in Toledo Air Base, not far from Nasiriyah, and running security for convoys all the way up MSR Tampa to Biop and Baghdad or Taji, the Anaconda area. So it was essentially either escorting KBR fuel tankers to get, all the fuel up there, or the local national semis filled with your PX supplies and nothing that's ammo or explosive or fuel related. So 6 gun trucks with 3 people in each, escorting 50, 60 semis up the MSR, 12, 14-hour convoy missions. But my time in Bragg was so short because when I got to that unit, since they were already over there and they needed the replacements right away, we were rushed through. Me and I think there was like 7 or 8 other guys, most of us 11 Bravos. We were pushed pushed through the CIF, pushed through the gear issue, pushed through some range time, went through a week of hand-to-hand Krav Maga type stuff. It was called DIRT, Division Individual Readiness Training. It was the 80 seconds version of a quick train up. And so 2 weeks of that, and I was on a bus up to Baltimore, where I was on a plane over to Kuwait. I think it was about 3 weeks after I got to Bragg. My household goods hadn't even showed up, and I was getting on a bus to go up and fly to Kuwait. So the deployment was short. It was only a 6 month for me. We got back in May of 2008, and I had already requested to go somewhere else. I was not airborne qualified because of the broken foot. I didn't give my Nebraska Guard enough time to get me airborne qualified. And even though the 82nd was willing to send me to jump school again, at this point, my focus had changed from airborne infantry due to a buddy I was with in Bragg to Bradley's. I wanted to get in that mechanized world. So I had requested to PCS to Fort Benning to be in the Bradleys. Mm-hmm. And that happened just a few months after we got back. So I went to Benning in September of 2008. And just like I wanted, I got to a unit, and they needed somebody who really wanted to be a crew member of a Bradley. And I was assigned to my platoon leader's Bradley vehicle as a driver, and went through the train up there, the CCTT, or the Close Combat Tactical Trainer, and learned how to drive with a video game style Bradley, learned the controls and stuff like that. And then we had the upgraded ones, the A2 Operation Desert Storm Bradleys. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough that my platoon leader, we'd had a few of them in the beginning. He was awesome, and he wanted to be out there on the tracks as much as possible. So I got very intimate with the Bradley fighting vehicle with 3rd Brigade, 3rd ID on mm-hmm. Kelly Hill.
How did you guys deployed out of there, right?
Yeah. I went to Operation Iraqi Freedom again from 2009, October of 2009 to October 2010. When it was transitioning to Operation New Dawn.
Right.
And we were at a patrol base, Husaniya, which is right outside of Karbala. And that was more of the infantry stuff. My first one was just kind of escorting the trucks, where this one was, we were doing patrols. Right. We were going in and going to the key leaders around the area, as well as the locals just outside of our patrol base. And that was cool. We got to that was more of the advise and assist type deployment, working with the Iraqi military and the Iraqi police, and helping get them trained up so they could eventually take over and lead from the front with just our support, and eventually without us. But that was a cool deployment. Got to do a lot of local stuff, help with the fire department next door, and helping with people raise honeybees. And we worked with the State Department while they helped the Iraqi people get ready for their election that year. Mm-hmm. So it was a lot of really cool stuff that happened, but there was less of the combat and more of the training of a foreign military.
Did you guys have a lot of concerns about insider threats there? Any guardian angels and things like that set up during your training?
Yeah, absolutely. That concern is always there, because you don't know who is really there to learn from you, or who is there to take advantage of the situation. So we definitely were concerned about it. Thankfully, no incidents happened, though, during that time.
Yeah, definitely, man. No doubt. So what'd you do after you got back, man? Did you stick around at Fort Benning for another deployment, go to some schools?
No, I actually me and a buddy, a good friend of mine that was in that unit, we had re-enlisted at the same time, and we both wanted Colorado. Everybody loves Fort Carson. It's a beautiful post, and it's a hard one to get. So when the fact that both of us could re-enlist and get it together was a blessing. So him and I, we didn't even take the 30 days post-deployment leave after we got back. We started clearing.
Yeah. So
in December of 2010, I cleared Fort Benning and went to Colorado, and in-processed and started my time in 4th ID in January of 2011. And for me, that was the best. I got the greatest training in 4-4. 112 was phenomenal. The command at ACO was amazing, and they definitely allowed us to really spread our wings and take extra classes. I mean, I did my Warrior Leaders course there, demolition school, a master breacher, ALC, they sent me to ALC the second I passed the board and got my P status. I was down at Fort Benning for ALC and didn't have to go to JRTC in Louisiana. I got to miss that because I was at ALC. So
right.
a lot of my friends were not, they were jealous. Let's just say they were jealous. So,
right.
But Colorado and ACO 112 was outstanding, and that led to, the deployment to Afghanistan in 2012.
How was that deployment, man? I know how that deployment was because I was there on it with you.
Yes, you do.
Let's talk about some of your, your thoughts on it, some of the things that you went through. And, I know a lot of people are going to be listening to your episode that know you and were there also. Might be a way to kind of help them through some of this too. You know what I mean? The thoughts of it. So if you don't mind, man, talk about some of that, your last deployment. So
that, I was one of the Advon type guys who went over because my assignment was going to be the Force Pro NCOIC of Portal King, because my platoon was going, most of my platoon was going up to Bareilly, which is the outpost on top of the mountain a few clicks to the west. Me and 9 other soldiers stayed at Portal King and strictly were force protection. We weren't part of first or second platoons missions to go out and do key leader engagements or supply stuff up to Bostick. Me and my 9 guys were strictly rotating through the towers and constantly trying to upgrade them and keep the battle positions tight. But it started quick. I remember just after a couple days, some of the mortar guys were outside setting a base plate for, I think it was the 60 mortar. And I think they got 2 flares off before automatic fire erupted. And there was a lot of us outside. And that was when we quickly learned, don't be in that open.
Yeah.
You're always being watched. There is always a weapon pointed at you. And at any time, it can start shooting. So movement during the day became limited. If you're moving from one position to the other, move. Get there. You don't got to run, but don't be hanging out in the open talking to people.
Right.
All of our work was done at night.
Yep.
All of our battle position upgrades or refilling sandbags and, latrine duty and stuff like that. That was all at night because typically our fights were during the day because we own the night.
Right.
But it was very quickly realized that this is not Iraq. This isn't driving up and down roads that are just, the IED, the big threat. This was direct engagement almost every day.
Man, well, you got me flustered over here, man, because I can remember that. I had a lot of buddies that were in Michigan. One of my good friends was the first sergeant there. And I mean, their gym would get ripped. I mean, they had bullets coming through their gym. Mm-hmm. You had to move. It was kind of the same way there in the Korengal. When I was there, you had to move. There was no kind of hanging out in the open, surveying the land. You had to get where you needed to go and get moving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you go sit behind the plywood door, that's your latrine, and there's a lot of new holes in it.
Yeah.
Well, we would just start circling with a pen and start dating it so we could kind of keep track. And there was always new holes.
That's
and
crazy.
You just think, man, somebody could have been sitting here, or, a Dishka hole, half-inch slug coming through the shower door. Thank goodness nobody was in the shower during that one. It was very surreal and quite scary at times.
Man. Well, my hat's off to you, man. And everybody else that's been there. I mean, my hands are sweating right now, bro. I mean, it's, that stuff makes me nervous, man, because it's real experiences that we went through, and it's real people, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That we knew, talking about your platoon leader, Lieutenant Thompson.
Well, he was the second platoon. He was my roommate, though, because I was Force Pro.
That's right.
So I was roomed with Lieutenant Thompson and Sergeant Sanchez, the platoon leader and platoon sergeant for second platoon. We became really good friends. They were my roommates. And more often than not, they would go do a mission while I was doing Force Pro, and I never really left. But after 3 months, the rest of my platoon that was on Bareilly was getting to rotate down. Mm-hmm. While another platoon was going to rotate up. Right. And so I flew up to Bareilly with the CO, Captain Norman, and to help brief the guys up there on what it's like to fight at Portal King. Because even though you're only a few clicks apart, it's a different world. It's a different battlefield. It's a different way of fighting. So I went up there in May, and on May 10th, May 10th, I flew up there. And on the morning of May 11th, I went and got chow, and one of the team leaders in my platoon was like, "Hey, we're, combo blackout." And I don't know what it was, but it's the way he said it and the way he looked at me that I knew something was up.
Yeah.
And I said, "What's going on?" He's like, "Go talk to Captain Norman, hurry up." So I just threw my tray away and went into the talk. And Captain Norman had this look on his face like I had never seen before. And he's the warrior's warrior. I mean, he's
very stoic.
Awesome.
He's very stoic.
Yeah. He's phenomenal leader. And but the look in his eye was also different. And he's like, the guys at Bargom and 2nd Platoon had went down to the Bargom checkpoint to do key leader engagements. And he said, "Green on blue, Lieutenant Thompson's gone, and there's been a few wounded." He's like, "Get your gear. We're flying down there." So I, within seconds, was geared up, ready to go. And just Captain Norman and I, we hurried out to the LZ, and a bird landed. Air Force pararescue bird landed for us. And him and I jumped on, and it was a very quick flight because Boreal could almost see Bargom. There was just a slight mountain that kind of blocked it. So very quick flight, and we landed, jumped out, ran over to the trucks, and I took over one of the trucks as a truck commander because their weapons squad leader essentially had to take over the leadership duties of the platoon sergeant and the platoon leader because they were both gone, and he was the senior. And Sergeant Dannison did a phenomenal job of stepping up to the plate and then taking over. But since they were down a couple people, me and the CO had to go and take over some truck positions, and we kind of had to wait there for a while. We moved forward. Some of the trucks had flat tires because not only was a guy with a rifle there that shot at us, apparently there was a belt-fed weapon from somewhere up in the hills.
It disabled the vehicles, yeah.
Yep. So it was wild. But eventually we did make it back to Pirtle King. The vehicles limped in, and I'll remember arriving because every single person that was at Pirtle King was waiting, and they took care of the trucks. Because normally when you get back to your base, you top off your fuel, clean your stuff out, get the truck ready for a quick mission if necessary. But everybody else that was there, they cleaned out the trucks.
Yep.
They took care of everything and just let everybody else, especially the 2nd Platoon guys. I mean, it was both my roommates. That was the leadership of 2nd Platoon. So that was a hard day.
Did you guys did you have a therapist come through, help you guys out?
There was quite a few people. I know Captain Kopp was around. You had her on last week.
Yeah.
She's great. I know she was always there and ready and willing to do whatever she could to help behavioral health and stuff like that. But I also think that Sergeant Dannison, he gave like a little speech towards the end, after we got back and cleaned up. And he was like, "This doesn't change our mission.
Yeah.
This doesn't make everybody in an Afghan uniform our enemy." We had A&A living inside Pirtle King with us.
Right.
So but that increased the fear of the insider threat. We went from being pretty relaxed inside to the sleeping quarters had an armed guard blocking the entryway, with an automatic weapon. The gym, you always had to have somebody watching your back while you're in the gym because you just never knew. So although, we had behavioral health assistance and it was great and it definitely beneficial, that fear in the back of your mind, it stayed the whole time.
Yeah. It's hard to get, it's hard to dispel that when it's still there, when the threat's still there. Very understandable, man. Very understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, so what got you up to Bostick, man? Was that coming for the memorial?
Originally, I had declined to go up. Even though 2nd Platoon was taking a whole convoy up there, I had told First Sergeant Little, he was pressing me to go. I told him, I can't, and Lieutenant Thompson will understand, that I'm Force Pro here and my guys are here and I got a job to do and I have to do the job. So just about every day following the loss of Lieutenant Thompson, First Sergeant Little was saying, "Hey, are you sure you don't want to go? You should go. You should go. And it's important to go and go through this memorial thing. You'll regret it if you don't." and it started to weigh on me. And finally, he offered to allow me to fly up there with him the night before.
Right.
So I wouldn't have to worry about riding, on the road and stuff like that. I could fly up with him the night before, and then the day after the memorial, we would fly back that evening. So I'd only be gone 2 days instead of like 4 or 5.
Right.
So I accepted that. And we flew up and got the transient room. I was in the little brick room right next to the gun line, and which was pretty common for us when we'd come up for our resupplies.
Yeah, that's where my guy would always put people that came through. We had SF guys on the other side. They had their own building set. Then you had another company from the battalion over there. And then every time you guys came through in vehicle convoys, we just put you guys in those buildings. So, it worked out great. So
yeah, and I knew the buildings and I knew the area, and it was really close to the Alpha Company A-Lock and not far from the DFAC. So it was awesome. And the memorial service was great. The rifle party, they did great with their 21 gun salute. It was extremely emotional and hard, but he was right. I am grateful that I went up and said my final goodbyes.
Good, man.
And then the next morning, gosh, it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up to the gun line going off. And my first thought is that they're shooting towards Pirtle King, because that seemed to be the most common area that the 155s were aimed at was my cop. So my first thought is, crap, my guys are engaging in something. I'm not there. Damn it. And but that wasn't it at all. We were taking indirect fire from the south, and the guns were shooting back, and the sirens were screaming incoming. So rather than go outside and go the 1 block to the latrine, I was just going to chug a bottle of water and relieve myself there. And as soon as I bent over to grab that bottle, the most immense amount of pressure imaginable. I mean, like in the movies when all the sound stops and all you can see is the smoke, and that was it. It was just a boom, and I was on the ground, and pretty much the rest of that day is gone. I don't have many memories of much after that for that whole day.
You were saying it wasn't even a blur, man. It was just, your memory was just completely gone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember the pressure. And then I heard there's some things I think happened, but it could have been a dream, Like, I do remember asking for my boots. Where are my boots? I need my boots. And then I vaguely remember having light shine in my eyes at the aid station. But a lot of things happened between me asking for boots and being at the aid station. I had heard later that I'd gotten on 4-wheelers and went over to the MWR where some 2nd platoon guys were at, and get them, load up the 4-wheeler, the quad, highly overloaded, like 7 people climbing on it. And I drove them quickly to their room to get their gear. I have no memory of that. I don't remember looking through buildings with First Sergeant Little. This is all told to me after the fact.
Right.
But I remember waking up later that evening, I'd say 6, 7 o'clock at night, and calling my wife to let her know, hey, something's happened, but I'm okay. And she responded with, I know. And I'm like, how do you know? And she's like, you've already called me a couple times. And I have no memory of that either.
Yeah.
So that whole day is a blur. But I have seen the videos, and oh boy, am I grateful to be alive.
Yeah, brother.
I know not everybody is alive from that incident, and a few people were lost, and a few people were Purple Hearted, myself included. But that day at Bostick is one that I can still, it still makes my skin crawl, not just because I know what happened, but because I don't remember everything.
Yeah.
So I guess the worry of, did I carry myself properly during those times that, I have no memory of, but I haven't heard anything otherwise. So I guess training does take over.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, you had every reason to not get up. I mean, you were literally, I remember those doors on that building. It turned them into toothpicks.
Yep.
Completely shredded it. It tore AC units off the walls, pushed everything around. I think
just about every door was blown in at some level, like whether it was just the
just the
like you said,
overpressure
turned into slivers or just blew the locks off. But yeah, that was a bad day.
Yeah, it was. That was. Well, brother, I'm glad you made it through that, man.
Me too.
And if I could take it back, I wouldn't put you in that room. I'd have left that building empty and moved you down towards the other end, man. Yeah, brother, I'm glad you made it through there, man. I'm sorry you got banged up. I know that's been a source of issues since then. But I'm glad you're doing well now.
Yeah, me too. It's taken a lot to overcome traumatic brain injury and migraines, sensitivity to light, all kinds of stuff. My shoulder was more messed up than we had originally thought. I've had surgery on that. But the battalion surgeon there was awesome. Captain Cheney he's great.
Yeah.
He made me stay there at Bostick for a few days while he monitored me every day, and he would come by and check. But I needed to get back to Turtle King. I needed to get back to my guys. And he approved it on the condition that if things changed, got worse, I wouldn't hide it.
Right.
And that he was going to try and get me to Bagram for CT scans and some tests, which I did end up going and doing later in, I think it was June of that, about a month after it happened. I went to Bath and had some CTs, and there were definitely traumatic brain injury and some issues going on there.
And here's the thing, man. I'm glad that you did that, or I'm definitely glad that Chris, Captain Cheney got you in there, man, because that's the kind of stuff that is hurting us now. It's those, it's the wounds that you can't see that affect people, and people think it's like, it just must have been the chow, or we've had a couple of tough days during the deployment, so he's just off, but. There's something internally wrong. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you got that looked at and got it documented too, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they can take care of you.
Absolutely.
How was the rest of the deployment, man?
Well, they offered me a flight home from Bath. They said that this is enough to send you to the house if you want. And I begged and pleaded that they didn't. All I wanted to do was get back to PK and get back to my guys, get back to ACO. And that's where I was comfortable. That's where my brothers were. And that was where my job was. So they let me. And I got to go back, and it didn't slow down at all. The op tempo was just as high. I just went through it by getting checked more. Doc Smith, Sergeant Smith from ACO was great. I checked with him all the time throughout the deployment to make sure that I was okay and that my back wasn't too messed up or anything like that. So still continued with the missions. But 4th of July of 2012, I was woken up from my sleep time because Brigade Commander, Brigade Sergeant Major were coming in. And that's when I found out that I was being given the Purple Heart. I didn't know up until that day that, I even qualified for it.
Yeah.
So we went inside the building and did a little ceremony. And Sergeant Major Griffin offered me to, a position on his personal security to get out of Turtle King. He's like, you got a job. It's not as crazy or as dangerous. And where we live, we got better food and internet and stuff like that. And as tempting as it was, again, I couldn't leave my guys. I couldn't go. And a few weeks later.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the thing about Kevin, man. He wanted, Sergeant Major Griffin. If you had taken your lumps out there, he wanted to make sure you were taken care of. Allow you to kind of step back a little bit, let a little bit of heat off of you. He's just taking care of soldiers and NCOs, man, especially NCOs. He loved NCOs to death.
Yeah, he was a great one.
Yeah. Yeah, so he offered you a position on his PSD.
Yeah, and I had to, respectfully decline, because if I can't take all my guys with me, then I need to be with my guys.
Right.
One of the guys from ACO did go, Ochart, and he went, and great soldier, phenomenal soldier, and he packed up his gear and he went because they wanted a couple of extra people. Mm-hmm. So, but since I declined, I don't know if that was why they took him or if he was in addition to. But a few weeks later, suicide bombers ended up reaching out in that area, and unfortunately he was lost. And I know for sure that I would have been there. I would have been on that mission. Mm-hmm. And would I have made it through that one? Who knows? Who knows where I would have been standing? Who knows how close I would have been?
Right.
But a heartbreaking bit of information to find out that the suicide bombers had gotten into his patrol.
August 8th, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one of those days.
Another tough one, man. Yeah, we're always going to be connected by those hard times, man. But somewhere out of that, we got to find the goodness out of it. The one thing is that you're here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're doing great things out there. How was your redeployment, man? Coming off that.
It was good. Lots of support. The best type of support. I think everybody back here knew that this wasn't a cakewalk deployment, and that lives had been affected. Lives are changed, and everybody is different, and everybody's going to be a little bit different. So the support was phenomenal. 4-4 and 112, and it was great. Originally, I was doing a flight packet because I wanted to go warrant officer, but the migraines and the TBI prevented me from doing that.
Right.
But it didn't prevent me from going through with my drill sergeant assignment. I think within 2 weeks of getting my E6, I had orders go to the drill sergeant academy. And I thought it was a joke because I hadn't been at Carson for a couple of years. Well, the Army don't care about that. You get selected, you get selected. So,
well, hey, man, it seems like you're only spending like a few months at Bragg. You did a deployment, a couple of months at Bragg. A deployment, a little bit of time at Benning. Jump off at Carson, a little bit of time. Pop smoke. You're just leaving a bit of skin everywhere you go and just keep moving on.
Yeah, I think in the 9 years I was in, you got Bragg, Benning, Carson, back to Benning.
Yeah.
And I lived in 2 different houses at Bragg because they were renovating. So just constantly moving, uprooting my family.
Yeah.
But that going to the Drill Sergeant Academy was a double-edged sword. I was voluntold to go, so I went. But I did not have a good time there. That was not my idea of fun. Was being treated like a private while when you're a combat veteran and an NCO. But it is what it is. I did well. I had a very high GPA on all my tests. Got through the course. Pretty good attrition rate there, so I felt good about getting through. And then originally I was going to be assigned to Fort Jackson, but I wanted Benning. If I was going to be a drill sergeant, I wanted to drill infantry. I wanted to teach 11 Bravos, how to be 11 Bravos. So I found another E6 11 Bravo, basically the same time and service time and grade as me. His wife wanted him to be at Jackson because she had family. He was on assignment to Benning. So we did a 1-for-1 swap, and HRC approved it. So I ended up going back down to Benning and did 25 months of drill sergeant stuff there, with the last year being in the training room because they knew I was going to be med boarding. But they let me stay on the trail. They didn't take my hat away from me. I was still able to train IET soldiers all the way up until the end, which for me was August of 2015.
Now, that was all from the TBI, from the shoulder, and just all this damage that you had taken. What about therapy, man? Had you been going through therapy? Not just physical therapy, but the mental health?
Not in the beginning. Like most of us, I don't need that. That's not for me. I can overcome this. I'm a man. But once I realized that I needed more help than what I was currently getting, because, I was angry and I was getting migraines and dreams were becoming more vivid. I wouldn't call them nightmares, but they were very real. I had a dream where I was engaging somebody and I couldn't hit him. He was close, but I couldn't hit him.
Yeah.
And he hit me and I woke up with my chest burning, like in one spot, like a soldering iron. And it was so real. And I think that was the dream that made me say, okay, I need more help. And so I did. I reached out and I ended up going to see a therapist in Columbus, Georgia, right outside Fort Benning. And she was great. She wasn't a veteran. But she had done some crazy stuff and told me some of her stories. So I know she knows exactly what post-traumatic stress is. She knows exactly what all this stuff is that we face. And it was a tremendous help. Almost immediately after the first appointment, I started to feel less tension, less stress, less anger. And so she definitely helped me through the med board process and assisted me while the Army was doing their thing. So yeah, I did go to therapy during that last year that I was in uniform.
What was the hardest part about getting out, man?
I didn't want out. I had begged to be reclassed. Even with my issues, I felt like there was stuff I could do if it wasn't training and leading soldiers in combat. I did feel like I could still wear a uniform and be good at any job.
Right.
But there was just too much going on, and I was denied that. So even though they try through the ACAP or Soldier for Life program on how to, write a resume and apply for jobs and how to transition your Army language into a civilian type language, it wasn't something I wanted. And when it was over, it was just over. Yeah. I signed a piece of paper to go on terminal leave, and that was it. I didn't have a retirement ceremony. I didn't have an end of service award ceremony. I didn't have anything. It was just over. And that was probably the hardest part for me, was that it was something I'd wanted for so long, and I had tried so hard to get for so many years.
Yeah.
And I had it, and I was doing it, and I didn't want to stop doing it. And when it was over, it just ended. So for us, the comfortable thing to do was to go back to Colorado Springs, because my wife was working at Evans Army Community Hospital there. She was a pharmacy technician. So she had work, pretty much guaranteed. She had already been in touch with her old boss, and like, yep, you're hired, Yeah. And we knew the school area and the schools, and we loved the mountains and the weather. And so we built a house there just outside of Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
And that was perfect for us for a while. Because I went to, that first year, I was a stay-at-home dad.
How was
my youngest son wasn't in school yet.
How was that, man?
Oh, that was culture shock. I mean, leading soldiers and training IET at basic and OSIT was difficult, but when it's your own little rugrat and you hadn't been around and all that, it's just different. And right. So I figured it out real quick though. But that first year was rough. And so for me, the only way to kind of ease the mind was to find a new endeavor, find a new project. And for me, I used the GI Bill and jumped back into school because the joint service transcripts gave me quite a few credits towards criminal justice. And right. For me, it's always cool to study crimes and why they happen and, how can you prevent it and stuff like that. So I ended up going to Colorado Tech for my bachelor's in criminal justice.
And then you slid right in and got your master's.
Yeah. One of my professors pressed the issue of don't stop. Yeah. If you got the money and the ability, for me, the GI Bill, he's like, don't stop. It's just that next level. Yeah. And he even looked at me and he's like, you were in the Army. It's like going from one rank to the next. It's just a little bit different. Instead of learning how to do it, you learn how to teach it. And after you learn how to teach it, you learn how to change it and modify it and make it better.
Good
and
point,
that excited
man.
me. So
that's a good point, bro. I like that. I like the way you say that, man. No, you're absolutely right. I kind of feel the same way. It's like, I've got 2 degrees, but they're not master's degrees. So I just kind of know it. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Being able to teach it and really, spin it around in your head is good, man. I really wish that more veterans would use, the education benefits and just, even if they're not going to, I mean, you're not a cop.
Nope.
You just went and got
education. I did it because I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
I did it because I was eager to learn. And once I made that dean's list the one time, I thought that was a challenge. Now I got to make it every time. So it became get that GPA up, get it up there. So I became a real big book nerd, and I was up late at night, up early in the morning thinking about papers. And I think my final thesis paper for my master's was like 40 pages long.
Yeah.
And it was about the impact of juveniles and on how you can impact juveniles and how it impacts the criminal justice system. The home, the school, and the in-between, and truancy, and how important education is in preventing crimes. So, it was fun. It was really fun learning that stuff.
You ever thought about starting a podcast, man? and talk
No,
about just
not
that?
really.
Okay, just asking.
No,
Hey, I'm just asking.
I'm down. Always down to do it. But I mean, before this, I'd never even really been engaged with podcasts before talking to you. So
Yeah.
I'm loving it, though. This is awesome.
Hey, let me ask you this, man. As far as like, are you, when we first started, I was nervous. You said you were nervous. How you doing now?
I'm good to go.
Good to go. All right.
Let's rock and roll.
Hey, so you and I were talking, man, and you did some coaching too, and we had talked. I did football and coached track, and you did some coaching and some teaching too. Let's talk about that a little bit, man, and kind of take it from like how that helps you out, and then we'll jump in and talk about Armstrong Originals.
All right. Well, after I got the master's degree in the summer of 19, last summer, it was kind of like, what do I want to do? I've always had kind of a desire to teach. The boots, like a boots to suits or something like that. There's a way to go from military to teaching, and I had looked into that, and I had thought about doing that years ago. I've always liked the idea of sharing what I know, and after being a drill sergeant, that's as teacher as it gets.
Yeah.
So for me, after getting a master's, I applied for a substitute teacher's license in Colorado, and it got approved, and I was certified to teach K through 12. And so but I really focused on high school and middle school, because the eager to learn, and I mean, you start talking about Army stuff. I mean, kids love it, and kids are great. They're just so much fun to be around, and to see how you can impact their lives just with some words of encouragement, to me is just so cool. So it got approved, and I was certified in 2 different districts to teach. And on a Friday, if I was bored and they needed somebody, I went in. And there was a couple times I did some long-term ones where it's 3 and 4 days because somebody had to go out of town or was on vacation. Yeah. So I would go teach for those people. And then I fell into the coaching. I had been coaching a little bit for my son's football team. He was doing Pop Warner in Colorado Springs. And so I kind of just helped with that, just fell into it. But the guy who ran his league or his team ended up going and coaching for Fort Carson Middle School. And the year after he coached, I applied because they had a slot available, and I got hired on there. So I coached 7th grade Rugrats on the football field last fall, and that was cool. That was neat, getting them all, because there's some structure there that we're kind of used to in the military. All right, line up, get lined up. Let's, run 10 meters, 10-yard sprints and stuff like that. And it's kind of similar to doing some PT with the Army. So it was great, though, because, again, they're kids, they're fun. And a lot of them, it was their first year, and then some of them was their 3rd or 4th year. So getting all of them on the same page and seeing them grow and bond and unite as a team was definitely rewarding in itself. I loved it.
Well, I can definitely say this, Mike, from my experience coaching after I retired, it's actually a very good transition tool. You're still kind of, you're still a leader. You can still see that you're a leader. You get a chance to kind of retool that, get it right, so you're not smoking a defensive end or something like that.
Absolutely.
But you figure out that, it's really not that serious. But like you were saying, man, that 10-year plan, the way you look at our youth with that 8 to 18, I just feel that the coaches, because coaches were very strong in my life growing up, that, instilling some good, strong discipline in there, even if it doesn't stick, something they can fall back on later and be like, I'm going to do this just to give them another chance. Yeah, man, I'm glad you got to do that. I'm glad you got to do it. I wish more veterans would coach.
I do too. I think it's a good outlet. It's a good way to go and work out with them. I was running laps with the kids, and showing them how to tackle on the tackling dummy. And it's fun to get involved with people who appreciate you being involved. Right. And coaching is just that. And a lot of parents are like, thank you for yelling at my kid, but it's not yelling. It's, it's verbally motivating with coaching back. Yeah. It's definitely rewarding. And I agree. I think a lot of veterans would get something positive out of it.
Now, you guys, like right before the virus, you guys moved from the Springs up to Nebraska.
Correct.
And you were saying there that you were going to get back into teaching, man, but with the virus and everything, it just kind of shut that down. And how did you replace that, like the teaching and the coaching in your life during this hard time, that we're going through?
So, once Corona hit, it kind of just put a pin in a lot of things and put a few things on hold. So I've always enjoyed creative things. I like to draw, art stuff, but a buddy of mine had made me a wooden flag, a rustic wooden flag. And I wanted it subdued like we wear in combat. So no red, white, and blue, just black and white essentially. And it's downstairs in my office. And I was laying around one day, like, I wonder if I could do that. I wonder if I could make one of these. So then the research started. How much is it to get a miter saw? How much is it for a bundle of wood and stain and seal and all the equipment? And I was like, okay, I can wing that. So there I was at Lowe's, like a kid in a candy store, just collecting up all these supplies. And a few days later, I had my first flag created. And I posted a picture of it on Facebook. And my sister's husband, like, within seconds, sent a message back, like, I want one.
Yeah.
Make me one. And then a second later, his friend, I'll take one.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of, Jared, my brother-in-law, ended up getting the first one I ever made. And
right.
I don't even have one of my own flags here because I can't keep them on hand long enough. Everybody's donating towards what I named Armstrong Originals because every piece is an original from me.
Right.
Handmade, no machines, hand Dremel every star, names in the red stripe or whatever. And it's just become kind of my latest outlet. Woodworking is a phenomenal outlet, I think. I think gardening is. I think art is. I think coaching is.
Mm-hmm.
But woodworking for me is my latest endeavor, and it's grown into just something that about every week I have a couple flags I got to make up. Because people are donating to the Armstrong original name, and it's been great. It's been an extremely good outlet.
I hope you make one here for the podcast, man. Don't push anybody else to the side, but make one here, man. I'll put it up here on the set, and we'll have Definitely. It. So we do the video version. People can see it.
Absolutely, I would love to.
Yeah. Also, man, I'd like to get us on with some other veterans that are into woodworking and talk about that. There might be some other veterans out there want to get into it. They think it's too much effort, too much things they don't know, something they can't learn. Bring some veterans on and talk about it.
Absolutely. It's not got to be the most expensive tools. I mean, I'm not the guy who's got all DeWalt stuff. You know what I mean? If it's on sale and I can use it, I'm going to make it work, you know? And I think that's the best part about it is the creativity is never ending. You can make it work. And if it's not lining up just right, well, set it to the side, start a different one, and eventually it'll come to you. But there's something very soothing about woodworking. And I don't know, I've loved it so much. And I'm lucky here. My sister's husband, the one that bought the first flag, he cuts trees and grinds stumps. So if he cuts down a big old cedar tree, he'll get it milled down for me, and I'll have a stack of live edge cedar logs in my garage just drying and waiting to be turned into something. I don't know what, but at some point they will be something.
I saw those pictures, man. That looks like some sharp wood, man. Sharp wood. You have to make a table or something out of that, man.
Yep. So, I think I might. One of these days I'll try resin epoxy stuff, but that's a little messy, and I'm not that good yet. So.
Right. Hey, Mike, we're rolling up on a little over an hour, man. But hey, I want to thank you, man, for coming on. I want to thank you for not giving up, keeping after it. Like I said on the Instagram video, your dedication, man, to get in the fight and to try to stay. It's just amazing. You just don't.
Thank you.
You see a lot of people giving up in life. And you definitely didn't. You kept fighting, and you took some shots on the chin, but you came out of it strong, man. And I'm glad you're here with us still.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We're gonna do some more episodes, my friend. We're going to do some more episodes, but I'm going to let you close this one out, and you got the last words, man. Thank you again for coming on, and we'll talk again.
All right. Well, to close out, I'd just like to thank you for having me on. It's an honor. I hope that this finds all the veterans listening well. Don't give up, ladies and gentlemen. You can't do that. We need you. Your family needs you. And like Captain Cop said last week, reach out if you need something. It just shows that you're all the stronger. So thank you again, and have a great weekend.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon.
Copyright Heart of Volunteer 2020.